Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by Craft Beer Nation. Today is October 8th, 2015, and we have Wim Benz, CEO and founder of Lakewood Brewing Company of Garland, Texas, joining us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about his history and the road to Lakewood, where they are, and what's to come from these guys. So pour that beer in a glass and get comfortable. And while the theme music plays, I want to remind you that that would be the perfect time for you to subscribe to our Pints and Quarts podcast, which you can access via iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, whatever podcast form you use. You can also follow us on Facebook at Craft Beer Nation. We're on Twitter at CBN Community. We're on Instagram at craftbeer_nation. And we are also on Google+.
Time now for a look back at the last week in the craft beer industry. Pour a cold one and sit back for an all-new episode of Pints and Quarts, presented by Craft Beer Nation.
So, welcome back, everybody. And once again, like I said, tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with Wim Benz, the CEO and founder of Lakewood Brewing Company down in Garland, Texas. Wim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
I have no complaints. You guys?
Doing good, man.
I'm drinking Lakewood beer, so I'm good. Life is good right now.
Absolutely.
You might want to push your screen a little back when you get. There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
I just noticed that.
Okay, so Wim, before we get into anything, I'm sure people are like, Wim Benz? Where are you from?
I get that a lot.
Okay. So, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get into how you got involved with craft beer.
Sure. So I was born in Belgium, so I'm originally from Belgium, and my family moved to the U.S., moved to Fort Worth, Texas, which is real close to here, when I was about 7 years old, and we've been living in North Texas ever since. Went to college here. Started a career here, and then that career took a 180 or 90 degree turn, and started up a craft brewery. So that's the short story, at least.
So is your story the typical craft beer story where you started out home brewing, and then kind of gained a passion for it, and it just kind of exploded?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of a common thread among a lot of brewers out there, and a lot of entrepreneurs who end up starting up their own brewery. They fall in love with beer. They have a passion for it, and they want to share that passion. For me, I started home brewing because I wanted to recreate some of the beers that I would have in Belgium when we would go back and visit family. So it was, a little bit out of necessity and out of curiosity to see if I could recreate those recipes and recreate sort of that memory that I had of having beers in Belgium when I was visiting Grandma. So
cool. So the beer that I'm drinking tonight, I'm drinking the Temptress. Yep. And we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you said that this isn't your flagship beer, but it's definitely the beer that you're certainly known for.
Right.
Is your identity as a brewery that of Belgian influence, like you just said, or is it kind of an amalgamation of styles?
It's a little bit of everything. So we sort of our internal mantra is internationally inspired and locally crafted. So we have obviously an English influence with Temptress being a sweet stout. We have a Belgian influence with a lot of the limited edition beers that we do, as well as Hop Trap, which is our IPA. It's a Belgian IPA. We have a Vienna lager. We have an American wheat. We have a very West Coast session IPA. So we're kind of all over the map. We have a lot of brewers here who come from different backgrounds, and we like to celebrate everyone's influence on the brewery and on the beer.
So which one of those beers is your flagship?
Well, it depends what you define by a flagship. Either, most people define a flagship by what is their biggest seller. So with that regard, it would be Lakewood Lager. Lakewood Lager is our Vienna Lager. That's this one. And
Which I had. It's a fairly good lager, I have to say.
Thank you. So it's, it accounts for about 30% of our business, and they're kind of neck and neck. Temptress and lager are kind of neck and neck, depending on the time of year. So, but lager, ekes it out by just a little bit. Now, if you want to talk about a flagship as the beer that you're known for, and then it's definitely Temptress. And if you took Temptress and all of her different variations and put them together, that might be more volume than lager. But they're, both of them together account for about 60% of what we do.
So just mystify something. I just want to, before you go on, I know your brewer's in Texas, right? And everybody tells me how hard it is to open a brewery in Texas. Tell me about your experience. Is that really hard, or it's because it seems that you guys have some strange laws. Something has changed recently, but
right. So we opened in 2012, and there had been a pretty big boom already that had started down in Austin with craft beer, with breweries opening down there. But that hadn't really translated up to Dallas-Fort Worth yet. So we had two breweries. Relatively small at that time, that were serving a populace of 6 million people. We only had two local breweries. So at around 2011, 2012, that all started to change. We were the third new craft brewery to open within about a year. And since then, it's just, we feel like there's a new brewery opening up every month. So since we've opened in 2012, we've had an additional almost 30 breweries and brew pubs come online since then. So it's been a really big boom over the last 24 to 36 months. It's been pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
But to talk about the laws and the rules. So for us locally, it was really difficult due to zoning issues. So we initially were looking for a Dallas address. So we are Lakewood Brewing Company. Lakewood is a little area just east of Dallas. Used to be its own city. Got annexed by Dallas in I think the early 20th century. And it's a great little area. We have an awesome little lake there, which used to be the reservoir for Dallas. It's a very easygoing, laid back. It's about as Austin as you can get without going to Austin, if that makes sense. For people from Texas, they'll get that. So that's where I live. That's where the brewery started. It started in my garage, and we called ourselves Lakewood Brewing Company. And then when we decided to go professional and open up a brewery, we threw around a couple of different names, but Lakewood Brewing is really the one that stuck because of what it represents. And it represents family, community, integrity, creativity, all things that we thought were great cornerstones to build a brewery on. So we kept the name, we kept it Lakewood Brewing Company, and it's worked out well.
Sometimes the name finds you, man. I mean, you just kind of casually called yourself Lakewood Brewing Company when you couldn't think of anything else that would fit your identity. So had to stay true to who you are. Mm-hmm. One of the things we do for this show is we post, give our community members an opportunity to ask some questions. So one guy, Dan Berger, he submitted some great questions last week for us.
Sure. So
he had essentially like a 4-part question for you, all right?
Okay.
So he told me to ask you about the socks for the Stew Pot Alliance initiative. What's up with that?
Good question. So, Hypochondria. This is our a little bit closer.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, there we go. Hypochondria. That's our East Coast Session IPA. And there's a local magazine that gave it a scathing review. They didn't bother to, have anyone with any beer judging background or, people who are really into craft judge the beer. It was really just people who sound bites sell magazines, reviewed the beer. And it was pretty bad. And so one of the reviews was, it tastes like something that was poured through a hobo sock.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. which which sells magazines, but which we took offense to. We never want to alienate anybody. Our motto is beer for whichever neighborhood you call home, and even if you don't have a home, we're inclusive of you. So we said, okay, nice try. So what we're going to do is proceeds from Hypochondria are now going to the Stew Pot, which is helping out people who don't have a home. So and we're providing socks for those homeless people as well.
That is a way to turn it.
That is, yes.
Slow clap.
Yep.
In your face, person.
Unfortunately, the situation you went through is happening too often. I see around here, with the growth of bottle shops and breweries around here,
Yep.
I see reviews of beer that I had, and I'm just thinking, this guy must not have had the same beer I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about. That's just the bottom line.
Yep. That's very true. It takes the fun out of beer. Beer's supposed to be a very social, communal thing, and we're all supposed to be enjoying it together, and people are nitpicking it and picking it apart when they have no business to, or have no education to back up whatever they're trying to convey. There's plenty of beers that we make that people aren't going to like because that's just not their flavor. But that's why we make more than one. We make 18 different beers throughout the year. You're going to find something you like, and to go on Facebook or go on Twitter and just completely bash a brewery because of your opinion of the beer, not whether or not it was stylistically well done, is cheap.
Well,
Right.
about your
difference between. Go ahead, go.
Now, I was just saying, we just did last Friday Belgian IPA, right? And you have this Belgian background.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit why. We kind of talk about the difference between a Belgian IPA, and it's a fairly new styles, and we were a little confused, other than the yeast strain. Tell us a little bit about the Belgian IPA.
So, we started doing a Belgian IPA 3 years ago when there really weren't that many in the market. There are a couple of Belgo-style IPAs, but we wanted to really make a Belgian IPA that was all Belgian. So we started with the yeast. We used the Westmalle yeast, very well-known Trappist brewery in Belgium. We used coriander, which is a traditional Belgian brewing spice. We used European hops, and we used a malt bill that was also very European as well. So all those things come together, and you don't have a aggressive IPA. You have essentially what is an English IPA with a Belgian yeast. And for me, that's the definition of a Belgian IPA. If you're going to make a Belgian IPA, use as many, at least European ingredients, if not Belgian ingredients, as you can. But that's the fun thing about beer. You can interpret it 1,000 different ways. So for us, that's what we did, and it worked. And I'm super proud of that beer and have it all the time.
Awesome.
So the guy Dan Berger also said that you guys actually use like consumer feedback in the choices that you make as brewers. Is that true?
Well, obviously I wouldn't say that we're crowdsourcing beer or anything, or crowdsourcing recipes, but consumer feedback is important. And if you're not listening to your customers, you're not doing it right, because without your customers, you're not selling any beer, and you might as well just get out of the business altogether. So yeah, we listen to our customers. We listen to feedback. We value their opinion, but we're not crowdsourcing beer. The recipes are still our own. And we put it out there hoping that everyone will like it. And
that's it. The importance of that is understated, because, I mean, all brewers, well, not all, I'll say all craft brewers, they're very passionate about what they do. You're passionate about brewing, and you want to get this product that you're making out to the masses. But at the same time, I mean, it's important to pay attention to the people who are actually paying for your product.
Yeah. Absolutely, paying attention to the people and paying attention to the market as well. If you're in a beer market that has 15 Belgian IPAs, it might not be a good idea for you to make a Belgian IPA. right? Because the market's already flooded. So I think as brewers, we have to pay attention to not only the market, but we have to pay attention to the people who are drinking our beer and their feedback, and how the demographic and how the tastes of the public are changing over time. 2 years ago, there were not nearly as many barrel-aged beers as there are now. Now, if you open up a brewery and you're not making a barrel-aged beer, there's something wrong with you, right? Or at least that's the impression. And
that's actually.
now we're seeing the same thing with sours. Everybody's starting up a sour program, and that's just part of the rhythm of how the beer market works. 10 years ago, everyone had to have a wheat beer. Now everyone has to have an IPA. So it changes. It changes as our fans get more savvy about beer. They start developing their palate better. You have to consider that for us, we're still in a pretty young market. Craft beer hasn't really been as big as it, in some other parts of the country. So the tastes of people in Portland versus the tastes of people in Dallas are going to be very different, not only from their because they've grown up with it, but also because of the climate. And there's another thing you got to consider.
So you brought up the barrels, and which brought me, because I'm drinking Temptress, and I saw you guys have a barrel-aged Temptress as well. Yeah. And I see the barrels behind you. So I guess.
Don't look at that.
So I was wondering, how do you guys go about your barrel aging, and what makes you guys select, what brews are going into barrels? What's your take on that? How do you guys go about that?
So barrel aging, we kind of fell into it kind of accidentally. The first batch of Temptress that we did, it was the first time we brewed it on our system, and we didn't quite hit the gravity that we wanted, and we didn't. It was a good beer, but it wasn't what we wanted it to be, especially the first time out of the gate. So we said, well, what are we going to do with it? And we were like, well, I don't want to dump it because it's great beer. Let's put it in a barrel. So that's what we did. We got 12 barrels. Wasn't a whole lot. Put it in there, and Bourbon Barrel Temptress was born. And now that's our whale. It's super limited. People are standing in line for it for hours at a time. There's one bottle limits at most stores. So that's the one that's hard to get and that people are really clamoring for. But that wasn't on the radar to do 5 months into our creation. So
man, I've been to a couple hundred breweries, and 150 barrels is quite a lot of barrels for a brewery. You have a big selection back there.
Yeah. So we do a couple of different things. So obviously Bourbon Barrel Temptress keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. That is being the growth of that is being buffeted by the price of barrels. I'm sure you guys have discussed that prices of barrels have just skyrocketed. 3 years ago we could get a barrel for about $100, and now they're pushing $250. So it gets very cost prohibitive to start a barrel program or to keep one going. We've done a lot with wine barrels. We've done quite a few things with wine barrels, which are still less expensive. Obviously, they don't give you bourbon, but they give you very interesting flavors as well. We probably have about 40 Cabernet barrels and about 20 Chardonnay barrels back there, all with different beers in them. Some of them are seasonal for us. We age our Till and Toil, which is our Belgian French Saison, which are spring release. We age that in wine barrels for a year, and then release that right after spring. So we do some.
That's a big saison, right? That's a quite big saison, like over 8%.
No, it's about 7.
Okay.
7.5, somewhere in there. Yeah. So lots of tropical fruit flavor in that one. There's some really, really cool hops. A lot of Citra and a lot of Mosaic. So we took that Belgian French style base and just put a bunch of really cool American hops on it. So it's like drinking pineapple juice. It's really cool.
Gil rubs Mosaic cones on his neck right before he leaves the house.
Perfume in the morning.
Lola, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm looking at your website, and
Yeah.
first of all, these labels are gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I noticed that some of the beers are still being produced, but some aren't. What
Right.
goes into your decision to stop producing a beer?
Okay, so the ones that are no longer produced, those are part of the Legendary series. And so our Legendary series beers are one and done. We make them one time. It's usually a pretty big beer. So we've done a Belgian Dark Strong. We've done a smoked Belgian Golden. We've done a Beer de Garde, a Black India Lager. And we've done a triple. So we've done 5 so far. Oh, and we did a Doppelstick Alt as well. So we've done 6 so far.
Wow.
Sorry.
If you said chocolate mint, tempters, I would cry.
No, that's a seasonal release for us now. That's Sin Mint. Yeah. But yeah, so we have our Legendary series, which it's a way for the brewers to kind of flex their brewing muscle and come up with a new idea. It's sort of a little internal competition. Anyone is free to submit a recipe or submit a pilot batch, and then we all kind of sit around and think about it, vote on it, and we do a production run of it. We do about 90 to 120 barrels of it now, so it's a decent amount of beer. Always gets bottled, but once that beer is done, it is retired.
So, Wim, how big is your brew house capacity?
We have a 30-barrel, 3-vessel brew house.
Okay.
Currently.
And what was your output in 2014?
2014 was about 7,500.
And what's the projection for 15?
15, we're going to be right around 10, which is less than we thought we were going to do. But we just built the facility that you're seeing behind me. So that was built out. We moved the entire cellar. We moved 15 tanks in the spring. So that really put a kind of damper on production. We tried to keep production up as much as we could, but the first couple of months of the year were a little slow just because we were transitioning. We basically moved the entire brewery except for the brew house. So
that's Texas only? You're just doing Texas?
We are just in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We call that production.
Yeah. So we're happy about it. We want to be the hometown beer, so we're doing our best to do that.
And
give us a reason to go to Texas.
Yeah. It doesn't suck here.
I go to McKinney every year, and I have to say, Antonio Borunda, I don't know if you remember who he's who got me on contact with you. He told me about your brewery, and that's how I ended up eating there, and it was like, all of a sudden it was like 2 nights in a row. It's pretty nice. I was, you always concerned when you go to breweries, and I have to say that it was really nice. I thought your beers was well rounded.
Thank you.
For our local brewery, yeah.
So, Wim, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about a couple news articles that we came across throughout the week. And one of them was an article that Freddie actually found from thehill.com, and it's called The Beer Fit for All. And this article is basically about an act that they're trying to pass in Congress, the Craft Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act.
Okay.
And basically, if passed, this act is going to recalibrate the federal excise tax to provide relief to small and large brewers as well as to importers.
Right.
So the whole point was for it to recognize the changes in the brewing industry that have occurred over the past several decades. And I mean, craft brewing is up to what? We have 4,000 in the country now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, this is good news for you. I mean, the article speaks to how overall the beer industry contributes nearly $253 billion in economic output, which is equal to about 1.5% of the U.S. GDP.
Yeah.
And they speak to how beer is an employment-intensive industry with jobs in brewing growing more than 23% from 2007 to 2013. more than 1.75 million Americans work in the brewing industry, with small brewers employing over 115,000 full and part-time employees.
To the point that the president mentioned New Belgium this week.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he talked about he was praising New Belgium for open the books and have employees part how just the practice the ethics and the business practice of some of the industry, and then he mentioned craft brewery in New Belgium more specific.
Yeah. So this is awesome because the projection is that they're gonna, just by changing the tax code, this is gonna be a savings to the industry of like $130 million. So, right. I mean, just think of how many more jobs can be created with $130 million saved, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's a good thing. So there's really two bills that are going through that have been slated to be in front of Congress. So. And I'm not sure, are you referring to the Small Brew Act, or are you referring to the other one?
No, this one, so I believe this one is totally different. Because I think there was a Small Brew Act and then something Beer Act or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a Small Brew Act and there's the Beer Act. And if you go to brewersassociation.com, which is our legislative arm as craft brewers, we as and I'm just speaking for what's on the website here. So the Brewers Association does not support the Beer Act. They do support the Small Brew Act, which is a very similar piece of legislation, but I think has the I think it's obviously supported by the Brewers Association, so they're saying that that's going to be much more supportive of small independent craft breweries, and is a similar measure.
Yeah.
So
I remember us.
But I'm all in favor of decreasing max taxes. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we pay a lot. We pay a whole lot.
And the more money you save in your pocket, the more you can. Over time, that leads to expansion, right? I mean,
yeah, no, I mean that'd be enough to pay for another employee or two. Put that money back into the brewery, and that's where it should go.
Many times a lot of the politicians talk about employment and how much any business is able to employ anybody. And the craft beer right now, it's not only the brewery itself, but how many cities we talk about that not long ago. Mm-hmm. It's having the business, the tourism part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got cities that are beer destinations where people will go to just for the craft beer culture there. So I mean, it can't be ignored. But Wim, to your point, I think that one act that you were referring to dealt almost explicitly with the excise tax.
Correct.
Whereas this one's a little more comprehensive because in addition to easing the tax burden, it also simplifies label approvals, and it also repeals unnecessary inventory restrictions on brewers. So I think it's a little bit more comprehensive than the Small Brew Act.
Small Brew Act.
Small Brew Act. So, I mean, this is awesome. And the one thing I want to point out about this is that this piece of legislation was bipartisan. So
everyone loves beer.
Republicans and Democrats love beer. They
better.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So another article that we found was Gil. We just spoke about 4,000 breweries.
Yeah, it's in the same lines. It's not a particular an article, but Brewers Association just announced that they didn't give a specific number, but they just told that craft brewery industry, despite a lot of the many brewers that either got too big or got business that it wouldn't be craft beer according to BA, but still they surpassed 4,000 breweries, and that's unheard of. Since they have, you know how I'm skeptical about the statistics and numbers, and well, they have a number here, 4,131 breweries in 1873, and I think that's maybe registered. I don't think they can really tell you how many breweries was on the 19th centuries, but you know, it's a good number. It's a close enough number, I would say.
Yeah.
And how long took US or the North American market to go back and have a lot of craft breweries like right now? And to me, it shows how people are changing their minds about, you know, we lived this 90s and the 2000s of the more the better, and we're going back to I rather have quality than quantities. We're going for this quantity over quality, and now we're going back to quality over quantity. And I think I can tell about my area, the whole neighborhood, about being able to walk to a brewery where I can meet the brewery and I can talk to him, and I think that's being a big deal, and I think that's what's changing the whole market when it comes to beer, and it's worrying a lot of the big breweries, but I will repeat what I always say here. It's my dollars. I'm as a customer, I decide where to spend my money, and I hope that that's where everybody's going. You know, supporting it, not necessarily their neighborhood, but quality. You know, over quantity.
People keep talking about the market being saturated, but more and more breweries just keep opening. So proving that market saturation, you can talk about it all you want, but it's not. There's no evidence of it. It's just speculation.
Yeah. Not yet. You know, but we, as you know, if you take all those 4,000 breweries, and that includes brew pubs as well, you take all those 4,000 breweries, and you know, we're still not making that much beer.
No.
You know, compared to all the beer that's consumed in the U.S., we're making 10%.
Well, but those 10% are not is in production. But if you think about $1 sold per barrel, I think that number is going to be much bigger. I think, and that's what we keep talking about percentage, and we think, oh, why is AB InBev or Seb Miller worried about it? They worried about it is the dollar amount that you know, those 10% are generated compared to whatever is being produced out there.
Sure, absolutely.
So speaking of breweries opening and growing, Oscar Blues is coming into Texas.
They're coming to Austin,
They're opening up with I think it's a 30,000 barrel facility.
Yeah, I think with room for 100 or more. It's been a while since I read the press release, but so they're moving down to Austin, which is kind of cool. You know, they're a groovy bunch of folks, and you know, they like music and smoking weed, so you know, Austin's a good joint, a good place for that.
So, but it's just going to be a production facility. So I'm not sure if they're going to, you know, have like the New Belgium style amphitheater like they have over in Asheville.
Oh no, they're gonna have a music venue attached to it.
Oh well, I guess you kind of have to if you're going to be in Austin, right?
Yeah. Makes good business sense, at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
And once again, along the same lines of breweries and changes and stuff like that, Lola, you got an article too, right?
Well, we were talking about oversaturation. As long as Sam Adams keeps making all these beers, I think they're more likely to become oversaturated than any of the other breweries. They are now going to be making nitro beers. They're going, we got this article from Fortune.com. It was written by Chris Morse. He actually talked to Jim. Is it Koch? Is that how you say his name? Jim
Koch.
Koch. All right.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
That works.
But he talked to him at the Great American Beer Festival.
Uh-huh.
They're going to start doing this nationally in February 2016. They're not going to do regional. They're going to just do national all across the board. It's going to be on draft and in cans. It's going to be one of those cans that has a little widget with nitrogen in it that makes it nitro.
Right.
The cans are going to be 15.2 ounces. And he said that they've been working on this for years. They just didn't make it vocal until recently. And the writer had the Nitro White Ale. He thought it was very smooth with a hint of orange and subdued spice.
I think that's interesting. I like the way that they keep kind of they like a lot of people don't like them because they've gotten so big and so successful, but they keep thinking of new ways to make themselves relevant or at least to make some type of splash within the industry. And I
Sure.
mean, I respect them. I mean, Jim is as big of a craft beer ambassador as you're gonna find anywhere else. So I mean, you can't hate on a guy because he sells a lot of beer. I mean, that's the point, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's what we all aspire to be, at least on some level.
yeah,
They invest in innovation, they invest in coming up with new ideas, and the market kind of follows. So yeah, I mean you can't talk bad about them. I mean they've made it, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they're not riding on their own coattails. They're not like,
They're
oh, we
not.
have all this
No.
Oktoberfest, we're good. They're trying. They're kind of
Yeah.
expanding what they do.
Well,
Yeah, at the same time, they're trying to keep up too. Like, look at they're just going to
Yeah.
release the new double IPA they're talking about with. They demanded a shelf life of 32 days, and they have to pull it. They said they're going to,
But
demand pulling it.
I think it's a brewery that's reacting to consumer,
The changes.
Yeah, because they were pushing their Sam Lager so quick, and a lot of people were kind of because there's so many it is overwhelming when you walk into a brewery, into a bottle shop, or into a place that sells it, and a lot of people were leaning to new things or different things rather than the Sam Adams, and I think they're reacting to the market, which I think it's a smart thing to do. It's just go back and be innovative. What they were in the past, and maybe they were just riding a little bit on their success, and I'm happy to see them doing that.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about a little bit of some of the releases that are coming up. Hardywood Park here in Richmond, Virginia, they're releasing their rum pumpkin ale. That's going to be a farmhouse ale, actually, that they're aging in Caribbean dark rum barrels. Going to be 10.5%. That was released on October 3rd. I live about an hour away from there, and it's hard to get. Like, most accounts are only getting a case or two. So I haven't even seen it in a while yet. Funky Buddha out of Oakland Park, Florida, their Snowden Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Porter that was released on Tuesday.
I hope I can get it.
Dew Claw out of Baltimore, their Devil's Milk American Barley Wine, 11.5%. That's going to be hitting shelves on October 12th. Sweetwater out of Atlanta, Georgia, their Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, 11.3%, was released on October 4th. Terrapin, also out of Georgia, their Walking Dead Blood Orange IPA, October 5th. Just so happens that October 5th was Monday, which was the day after Fear the Walking Dead ended.
Yeah.
And then right before The Walking Dead Season 6 picks up. So
it wasn't supposed the world to end yesterday. There was some group.
Something like that, yeah.
It was the end of the world again yesterday.
Well, that was not true.
Yeah,
All goes.
We're still here.
That didn't happen.
Right. Firestone Walker Barrel Works out of Buellton, California. They're releasing batch 2 of their Agrestic American Wild Ale. DBA Gone Wild, or maybe... Oh, and also DBA Gone Wild. Wow, that's going to be interesting. That was released on Monday. Founders is releasing their Dark Penance Imperial Black IPA, 8.3% ABV and 100 IBUs. Came out this week and will be available until the end of the year. Omegang out of Cooperstown, New York. Their Rosetta Belgian-style Creek, blended with Old Bruin and Cuvée Brut, and brewed with tart cherries. That was released on Monday. Green Man out of Asheville, North Carolina, is releasing their Thriller Blood Orange Saison. That sounds interesting. On October
I like
16th.
they have the label is like when Michael Jackson turned into the wolf.
Yeah,
It's
well,
kind of that
zombie.
over that all the greens, the leaves from the green man. I like the label.
And lastly, we have Avery's Old Jubilation Holiday Ale that was released this weekend. Wim, you guys have any new releases coming up?
We always have new releases. We're a busy brewery. So we have our 5 year rounds. We have our 4 seasonals. Current seasonal that just came out, well, actually it came out about a month ago, is Punkel. Punkel is our German-style Dunkel with pumpkin pie spices. Contains no pumpkin, just
well, pumpkin doesn't taste like anything, so we appreciate that.
Exactly.
I kind of
man.
So an awesome, German-style dark lager with just a little hint of spice in there. Cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, and ginger. Great for the holidays. Right now, the Legendary Series beer that we have out right now is St. Dymphna. That is our triple, brewed with linden flowers. The Seduction Series beer that we have out right now, the Seduction Series is our tricked up Temptress. So we take Temptress 4 times a year, do different things to it. Valentine's Day, we do Raspberry Temptress. Cinco de Mayo, we do Mole Temptress with 5 spices, cinnamon, and Venezuelan chocolate.
Awesome.
The one that's out right now is French Quarter Temptress, a.k.a. Inception Temptress, because what we do is we take, once we're done with one of those barrels, we take bourbon barrel Temptress out of the barrel, give that freshly dumped bourbon barrel to our friends over at A Noble Coyote Coffee Roasters. They take green fair trade coffee, age that in the barrel. They may put a little more whiskey, just to kind of get a little more flavor.
Spice
it up a little bit. So they age that green coffee in that barrel, and what happens is that green coffee absorbs all of the flavors and aromas that are in that barrel. So all the vanilla from the wood, some of the beer flavor, some of the whiskey flavor. Then they roast that. We put that then back into Temptress and add a little bit of chicory for a New Orleans flair, and that becomes French Quarter Temptress.
Do you know no limits, man?
Yeah. No.
Well, let me add it to your list. You should do a Temptress with hazelnut and chocolate.
I love you.
AKA Nutella.
I know it. So this has been a huge.
That's so funny.
I love you, man. I know you're on my side. So that's what I want to do.
Please.
But our brewers are like totally gung ho about doing peanut butter Temptress.
No, don't do it. Do the Nutella.
Yeah, Nutella. Yeah.
We're still debating. So nothing on that. So then. So that's the Seduction Series beer that we have out right now. Coming up, we have for North Texas Beer Week, which is the first week of November, we have barrel-aged Manimal. Manimal was a beer that we did last year. Is this really cool farmhousey kind of hoppy red. We aged it in spent bourbon barrels, threw some Brett in there. We're going to dry hop it once we take the beer out of the barrels. We're going to dry hop it, and then it's going to be available very limitedly on draft only during North Texas Beer Week. What else do we have coming out? Bourbon Barrel Temptress will be coming out again in December, and then in November we have Gil's favorite Sin Mint, which is Temptress infused with graham cracker and mint, and tastes like a Girl Scout cookie. It's pretty awesome.
It's so freaking good.
Man, I tell you, I want to get on that Temptress train, man. That Temptress train is.
I'll take all
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. And then for just one more, we got a couple of, and we'll see if we get label approval in time. But we got a couple of cool things that we're doing for our Halloween party here on the 31st. Every Halloween we pull some stuff out of barrels, and we call it the Let's Get Weird party. So who knows what's going to be on draft on that day. So we got all kinds of stuff.
I'm getting my plane ticket now, man. Can I crash at your house?
Yeah, we got room.
All right. So as far as festivals are concerned,
sure.
Helen, Georgia, they're having their Helen Oktoberfest, which is going on right now through November 2nd. Baltimore Beer Week is October 9th through the 18th, so that's going to be kicking off tomorrow. So everybody in Baltimore, get ready for that. Cleveland Beer Week in Cleveland, Ohio is also kicking off tomorrow and goes through the 18th. Chico Beer Week in Chico, California, also kicking off tomorrow, going to the 17th. Nashville Oktoberfest in Nashville, Tennessee. Bet you can't guess when that's kicking off. Tomorrow. through tomorrow through Sunday. Oh yeah, and then I already spoke about Chico Beer Week. Beer Fest in Fort Worth, Texas, October 10th.
Yep.
Anything to add? You gonna be out there, Wim?
I may. I'm definitely going to be at Untapped, which is in November. Let me look at the date. Untapped Dallas will be November 7th, I think. Yep, November 7th in Fair Park. The Flaming Lips are playing that, along with a lot of other cool bands that I've never heard of. But yeah, it's an awesome festival. It's one of the best festivals that are in the area. So it's pretty cool. So that's November 7th for us. You know, all the pint nights and all the other things that we do throughout the week.
Cool. And just south of you in Austin, Texas, on the 17th is going to be Beer Feast. Morristown, New Jersey, they're having a Big Brew Beer Festival on the 10th, which is on Saturday. So that, you know, probably expecting some barley wines and some big barrel-aged stouts and whatnot. Maybe Big Brew, I assume. And finally, the Great Tucson Beer Festival in Tucson, Arizona will be on October 17th. So aside from that one festival you just named, Wim, anything else that you guys, any other festivals that you guys are going to be at here shortly?
So North Texas Beer Week is a pretty big week for us. We have the Brewers Ball that week. A lot of really high-profile breweries and a lot of their brewers fly in for that. It's a sort of high-dollar, big-ticket event, but it's a very intimate event. We did it for the first time last year, and we're doing it again this year, and it's really, really cool. Firestone Walker guys fly in.
This has been fun.
Boulevard guys fly in. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. So, as Gil is giving us the Emmy treatment,
sorry,
Wim, thank you so much for your time, man. I had a blast talking to you. I really wish that I could get some of your beer here, but nonetheless, man, we wish you guys the best over at Lakewood. You seem like you're doing it right. You're listening to your consumers, and you're growing at a controlled rate, and that's the way to go. As a consumer, I appreciate that, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Come by anytime.
So everybody, be sure to join us next week.
Left hand. All right, so join us next week for Left Hand Brewing Company. You guys have a great night. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Pints and Quarts, brought to you by Craft Beer Nation. You can show your support for our podcast by subscribing to our content on YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, or our website, craftbeernation.org. Thanks for listening.
I see you. Oh.